unfortunately, in some of the people, not all of them, but some of the scholars in Saudi Arabia don't have a high regard for Imam AlGhazali, and yet all of them study the great usuli book of Ibn Qudama. That's the book that is muqarrar. They have to study it in their Sharia colleges. That book is derivative of al-Mustasfa. 70% of that book is from the Mustasfa of Imam al-Ghazali. So the usul of the Hanbali madhab is based on Imam al-Ghazali's usul. That's simply a fact. So, and my point in that was just really to stress the point that you cannot underestimate his influence as a jurist in our tradition. I've already gone over his kalam work, and then the Iljam al-Awam, we spoke about this. So, and then obviously Bidayat al-Hidayah. He has a very interesting book called Mishkat al-Anwar, which is really a metaphysical book, but it's a fascinating book. His other major project was Fadaih al-Batiniya. He really was exposing the occultists. And the Batini are very dangerous in every religion. The Christians have their Batini people. We're living in an age, Batini in the English language is Gnosticism. So, and if you look it up, if you Google it or look it up on Wikipedia or something, they're going to talk about Christian Gnosticism, but Gnosticism more as this idea of the illumination, that the Batini person, because they have this idea that they have these illuminated leaders, and they simply know. So there's a great political scientist, Eric Vogelin, who makes an argument that a lot of political approaches are occultic in that way. They're Batini. So you have simply illuminated politicians. They simply know. And so there's no debate. They're not going to debate about whether minimum wage is a good idea or a bad idea. They simply know it's a good idea, even though wherever it's applied, unemployment goes up. But it doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. We're illuminated. We simply know what truth is. And so the same is true with, I mean, you could go into this, don't get me started on that one, but, and then the other one is his refutation of the peripatetic philosophers. It's important that they usually say refutation of philosophers. He was refuting a school of philosophy. He was not refuting the methodology of the philosophers, which he actually is instrumental in bringing that. And this is where Imam al-Ghazali, really, Ibn Taymiyyah had problems, because Imam al-Ghazali brings the methodology of philosophy into usul al-fiqh, into theology, ilm al-kalam, and in many ways into tasawwuf. So that's simply a fact. And then Tahafut al-Falasifa. So, just to look at that for a second, one of the things that is very interesting is in Tahafut al-Falasifa, he preceded it with Maqasid al-Falasifa. So he wrote a book where he explains philosophy really well. And the ulama actually were upset with him because they said he made it accessible to common people. He didn't criticize it. He just simply, and it's really basically from Ibn Sina. So in fact, Ibn Taymiyyah's famous remark that the book of Ibn Sina is called Ash-Shifa, which means the healing. And so Ibn Taymiyyah said, Shariba Imam al-Ghazali Ash-Shifa famarida. Like he drank the shifa and he got sick. In other words, with philosophy. My response to that is, Sharibahu fa razaq Allahu laddatuhu wa abqa fihi quwwatuhu wa adhaba anhu adahu. Like that's how I would respond to that. That he drank it and Allah gave him the delight of its taste, and then retained in him its benefits and removed from him its harm or its foulness. So that's how I would view it. But who am I? So why Hujjat-ul-Islam? Because he is truly the proof of this religion, because he is the man who took the journey. he took the prophetic journey. And not only did he take it, but he came back and he gave us a map to take the same journey. And so he is the proof that this religion works, that if you take the medicine, you will get well. If you take the path, you will arrive. And in that way, it's falsifiable, because one of the things that Karl Popper argued was that you cannot have a science that's not falsifiable. And what that means is it has to be testable. So if I say, for instance, that water freezes at sea level at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, you have to be able to falsify that in order to assert it as a scientific fact. So you have to be able to test it and see if that is true. It has to be replicable. And in this way, the spiritual path that Imam AlGhazali has marked is replicable. That's the point. He is the proof. He did it. He took the prophetic. He entered into the Quran and he understood. And that's why this entire edifice that he has built is based on the Quran. The whole prophetic sunnah is based on the Quran. All of it is from the Quran. And that's why the Jawahir is such an interesting book, because he's getting to the heart, the essences of the Quran. That's why he called it Jawahir. Al-Jawahir wa Durar. And to get pearls and diamonds, you have to work. You have to mine them. Allah does not just put them out for you to pick up off the shore. If you want pearls, you have to train yourself to hold your breath. This is what traditionally the pearl divers did. Now they can go in with modern people. They don't want to do any of the hard work. So they just put in the... But traditionally, those pearl divers, they had to be able to hold their breath 4 or 5 minutes. So they would train, and then they would dive. And then you have to break the shell to get to the pearl. The rubies, the diamonds, you have to go into the mines. You have to dig them out. You have to do the work. So that's what he's done a lot of the work for us. So he's saying, here it is. Now what you have to do, I'm giving you the jewels and the pearls. You have to adorn yourself with them. That's your challenge. So he is Hujjat-ul-Islam. And this is what Imam Dhahabi said. This is what Tajuddin al-Subki said. And so many scholars after. This is his laqab in our ummah. He is Hujjat-ul-Islam, Abu Hamid, Muhammad ibn Muhammad ibn Muhammad al-Ghazali. Well, I think the reason that he's associated so much with Sufism is because for the masses who really don't know about, like most people in America, they don't really know who Antonin Scalia is, but everybody knows who Deepak Chopra is, right? So people that are interested in politics probably know who Antonin Scalia is. But even the ones that know who he is, they've probably never read his extraordinary books in Western usul. He wrote a book called Reading Law, which is essentially usul al-fiqh for Western law. And a lot of the same principles you'll find in that book. So that's part of the reason, is because he had such a huge influence on spiritual practice in the Muslim world, that's what he becomes known for. So most people don't know the massive influence he had on the scholastic side of Islam, in theology and in fiqh. And it's unfortunate because they won't realize what a mountain he is, because he is single-handedly the only Muslim in our entire history that is a reviver in all three: Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. He's the only one. Nobody else has that. And they recognize it early on. And of course he's going to be opposed, and you always have detractors. But it's natih al-jabal, like the Arabs say. You're butting up against a mountain.